All right, man, we're live. Hey, Harold, thanks for coming on, y'all. I got Harold Jackson III with me, writer, director, producer, and I'm just gonna hand it off to him so he can just, tell us, Harold, a little bit about yourself. Just real brief, like, why should people salute you when you pass by?
First of all, thanks for having me, Frank. Man, it's always a pleasure, to be able to work with you and all that, in any capacity. So I'm excited about this podcast, and I just want to thank you for
Appreciate that.
having me on board. Again, my name is Harold Jackson III. I am a filmmaker, producer, writer, editor. Started out as an editor and sort of parlayed that into shooting, and then parlayed that into writing, and then directing, and I've kind of made a little path for myself here. Um, I've done, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 12, 14 films at this point. Um, I've done everything from comedies to dramas to love stories in all different capacities. Um, I'm a new author. I got a book out now that's called Melanin in Movies, where we talk about the history of um, how Hollywood has helped shape the narrative of Black people and how Black people have helped shape the narrative of Hollywood. So definitely find that if you can. I got a new film coming out called The Novelist that'll be coming out soon, and God willing, I'll be going into production here real soon on a new project.
Sounds good. Well, I'm gonna jump in, Harold, because I think everyone wants to hear your take on this subject. And so I'll just start right out with the question. You give me your answer, and then you can expound on it, and we'll take it from there. So the question is, in your opinion, is Hollywood dead?
I think the version of it that we grew up on, the version of it that we were taught to believe, that we wanted to believe, that we wanted to be a part of. I think that version of Hollywood is either dead or dying. Right? I think it's going to go through a major change, a major uprising. It's going through it right now, and what we thought as kids doesn't necessarily exist anymore, and probably is never going to come back. So I think as filmmakers, as modern contemporary filmmakers, um, I think the best thing we can do is accept that and then learn to reshape and recreate our own narrative outside of that.
Um, when you say that version, maybe if you can bring that home a little bit more to maybe when you first started as a filmmaker, your expectations or just your of the industry and where you were then versus where you
Yeah, I
are
think
now.
when I first started, I thought that I was going to make a really good film that that the powers that be were going to see somehow. I don't know, through a festival or snuck in through somebody's back door, and they were going to see it, and they were going to go, "Wow, this guy's special," and then they were going to come pluck me out of a lineup and save my life, and I was going to be a A-list director or writer or whatever the case may be. Um, and then I was going to be on. I was going to be the next hot ticket, and rightfully so. Thinking like that was a fair way to think. I think in the past because that's how it happened a lot of times. Like you would make a short that was your calling card, and it would get into Sundance, and then the next thing you know, you're off to the races. And I don't even know if those sorts of things are happening I don't know if they ever happened at the rate that we thought they did. Maybe it was like hitting the lottery. You hear about people hitting the lottery, so you feel like you got a chance. Or if they were happening at the rate that we thought they were, I don't know if they're happening that way anymore. You see people that come out of the gate, maybe they had a good film, and and then they get the backing behind them, and they do a feature or two, and then they're back at the back of the line because they didn't hit. I don't think the Hollywood stamp, is as bulletproof as it used to be. I don't think um, Hollywood is as bulletproof as it used to be. Um, there was a time where you put an A-list star on the marquee on the front of the poster, and that was You can pretty much take that to the bank. I don't know if that's true anymore. I don't know if that's true anymore that you put, you know, one of my favorite directors of all time who's a master at this, and I would never say anything negative about him, but someone like Scorsese. I don't know if you put a Scorsese film on it and that automatically gets you to the next to 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 the money. I just don't know if those things are 100% true anymore. So we really got to uh, us as filmmakers have to rethink what is success. We have to recalibrate our minds to think what is success.
Given what you just said, and I guess being like right in the middle of this evolution that's going on in the industry, um, what adjustments have you made, to stay relevant, or within this change, what have you noticed? Has things become a little easier for you? Are they tougher for you? Like, how has it affected you?
It's actually affected me in a pretty positive way. I think the changes in Hollywood are actually moving in my direction. And what I mean by that is um, the budgets are getting smaller, the productions are getting smaller, the crews are getting smaller. Um, there's still holdouts that are doing it at massive levels, but they're losing money at a breakneck pace that even the top of the line are rethinking how they make films. And what ends up happening is that sort of sea change is moving towards independent filmmakers like myself, right? We've already been battle tested with small crews. We've already been battle tested with stretching a dollar. We've already been battle tested with making uh, something that shouldn't look really good. These are the types of things that we've already been doing. These are the types of things that we've been doing for years, you know, and I've been doing for years. So I'm actually more motivated today than I was probably 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it felt like a move to LA and get in line and hope somebody sees you was the method. But I think today, um, there's a lot of different ways to go about this and a lot of different ways to attack this and a lot of different ways to become successful in it. I've had varying levels of success. I've hit really high and then I've missed really low. So the fact that I'm even in the game now based on my hard work shows that the industry is changing and the industry is changing in a way that benefits the independent filmmaker more, I think, than the seasoned, sort of bloated Hollywood filmmaker.
Right. Well, since we're talking about filmmaking or being an independent filmmaker, um, give me your opinion or your take on the traditional distribution route, from back in the day compared to the opportunities that filmmakers have now to get their films released.
Yeah, I think the traditional business route, the traditional distribution model for Hollywood may make sense to them. They have tested it, it's working or it's not working. They're able to absorb the costs um, and come out on the other end and still make another film. That's not necessarily the lifestyle of the independent filmmaker. Um, you kind of got to make something happen every time out the gate because it affects what you can do tomorrow. You don't have a surplus of cash or a the backing of financial institutions that are going to help you do these things. These are things that you're, either doing with a small business partner or things that you're doing on your own or things that you're asking favors for. This is a different type of mentality. So it's really important to understand um, where you are in the food chain. So the thing that I like to think is most important is the individuality or the branding of filmmaking now, how important that is. And what I mean by that is you can reach, you as the filmmaker can reach the audience directly. You can in some ways bypass Hollywood. If you can get 100,000 people interested in your product and buying your product, you're going to make more money than you would have gotten paid by Hollywood, literally. And I'm not being facetious. I'm not trying to sway anybody from going the traditional route. I'm saying if you can manage to get 100,000 people to buy your product, you will make more money than you would have made from a Hollywood production. Now, if you're an A-list superstar, okay, fine, but we're not talking to those people, right? They're not talking to me. We're talking to, I'm talking to the filmmaker that wants to make a living and wants to be successful and wants to be rich and all those things. If you can figure out a way to have 100,000 people pay for your product, you're gold, right? Now imagine if you can talk 200,000 people into paying for your product, so forth and so on. It's really about
Hmm.
it's really about how effectively can you market yourself, how effectively can you market your product. Some people are naturals. I'm not necessarily a natural at social media or self promoting. That's something I have to work at and be strategic about and think about. Some people can turn on the camera and they just light up the screen and people want to follow them. If you can take that energy and translate it to a product and then sell that product to those people, life is good. Life is good. Now, you have to ask yourself, are you happy with that? Are you happy with being paid, doing what you love, getting your product out there, but Hollywood hasn't stamped you yet? Is that going to weigh on your back or not? And if it is, then you keep working your way to Hollywood. That's a completely acceptable and viable way to do things. Um, at the stage that I am in my career, um, if Hollywood calls, I will definitely happily pick up the phone. Um, but in the interim, I'm no longer chasing their uh, stamp anymore. I'm really concerned with doing what I love, making the types of movies that I love, employing actors, making getting productions to be a little bit bigger and a little bit better every time, and being a better storyteller every time out of the gate. Those are the things that I'm focused on today.
Um, if I'm sure plenty of filmmakers are watching this interview, and I'm sure some of the things you said is probably giving some filmmakers hope and are inspired by what you're saying. So if I'm a filmmaker and I'm trying to get out there, or say I'm a filmmaker and I got a completed film,
Mhm.
what are some of the alternative options that you have gone or that you would go to get your film out there independently to hopefully get that 100,000 sales that you might not while you're sitting around waiting for to be picked up by some major distributor.
Yeah. Again, you can go to the traditional distribution route. They're going to run you through the food mill. You're going to get the same treatment that the film before you got. They're going to tell you they're going to do something different, but they're not. They're going to charge you a marketing fee, but they're not going to market it. These are the medium tier distributors that you can get in contact with um, at a medium tier, low tier level, and they're all going to do the same thing that the other person is going to do, just with a different package on it. You know, um, so you can accept that, or you can look at the world differently. I think you really, if I was a film, I am a filmmaker. What I think I need to do, and what I'm focused on now, is building uh, 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 visibility for myself and my product, and building a fan base for myself and for my product. Um, I think that's the difference maker. That's the key. Um, I love a quote from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he in for better or for worse, he's a very successful human being. Um, and he said the secret to success is hard work and advertising. You work hard and then you advertise the work that you did. That's how it works. I think it's that simple. I honestly do. It seems like it should be harder, but I don't think it is. I think you learn how to be a filmmaker, you become a good filmmaker, or you make a film that people want to see, and then you advertise it, and eventually people start to buy it, and they start to watch it, and you make money off of them buying it, or you make money off of the ad sales of them watching it. I think it's that simple. You can look at, again, you can go through the traditional distribution route. It has its pluses and its minuses, and I've experienced both ends, both pluses and minuses. Um, or you can go the aggregator route, which also has its pluses and its minuses, and I've experienced both ends of that too, its pluses and its minuses. Um, but I think the great equalizer, the thing, I don't think either one of those are going to make you sustainable as a filmmaker alone. Um, I just don't. It's just not my experience. There's money to be made, but not at the level that is necessary for you to continue to do this off your own back. Um, I think the big difference is building visibility for yourself, building visibility for the film. What that looks like, I think it's a secret sauce for everybody. Um, like I said, one guy or girl can, turn the camera on themselves and light up the screen. Others, like myself, have to be a little bit more methodical and think about it because the personality is everybody's personalities are different. Um, but ultimately, that's the great equalizer is visibility, fan base, and then converting those fans into followers that are willing to uh, watch and spend money for your product.
Right. So speaking for myself, I find when I'm searching for a film, if I'm on my Fire Stick, it's taking a lot longer for me to find a film that can keep my interest, and that's all films on all levels, from big blockbuster Hollywood films and independent films. Um, given the shift in the industry right now, what are some of the challenges do you think we as filmmakers have with our writing and telling stories where we can start engaging the audiences? Because I mean, in my opinion, I think that formula is just sort of like old for a lot of people, and they are looking for something fresh. And do you see that as great opportunity for independent filmmakers?
Yeah, I think the problem that a lot of us independent filmmakers run into is that there's still, whether we like it or not, there's still a part of us that wants Hollywood to pluck us out of the lineup and bring us and fly us in first class, and now all of a sudden we've made it. I think we all I think I would be lying if I didn't say there's still a piece of me left that wouldn't mind that. I think any filmmaker has that in the back of their mind because that's just the way we were trained to be. It doesn't make us any less of artists. It's just the way the world worked, and it was the only way in the past. Now it's a bunch of different ways to do things. So I think with that said, I guess what I'm getting at is um, when we start writing films, I think a lot of our first instinct is to write what we know, um, what we've experienced, and those sort of things sort of um, start to circle back to what we think Hollywood wants or what we think Hollywood likes, and then we start rehashing other people's ideas, right? And it's scarier. I'll speak for myself. Um, I've had to sort of trick my brain because my initial instinct is the further I go outside of the box, the scarier it becomes. But I think the paradigm has shifted, and what I mean by that is if I'm not going to make a tried and true film that I think is going to be successful, that I think people want, whatever they're on thrillers now. Let me make a thriller. when I step out of that and say it doesn't matter what they're on now, I'm going to make what I want to make. There's a part of me that goes, well, you're making it harder for you to sell that film, right? Um, but I think the paradigm has switched, and what I mean by that is, I think it's less safe now to make a film that is fitting in. I think that's the worst thing you can do right now, because all of the people that are doing that and are successful, they're already in the club. They're the ones that are getting called back every single time. The chances of you getting into that club are really slim. So now you're going to make a film that's already been seen a million times, and you may get a little buzz from it, but it's not going to do anything. I think the paradigm has shifted now, where you have to be interesting. You have to take the people somewhere they never. That's how you get noticed now, by being by taking the people somewhere they've never been. That's the way it's done. I think that's the new way. The new way is somebody's individual point of view, as opposed to, can you make a rom com that's like, you know, Notting Hill, or can you make a rom com? Can you make
Hmm.
another Love and? I don't think people want that anymore. I know there's a population of people that watch it, and I think that's very mainstream. That's why you feel like you should do it. Uh, but I think if you want to get noticed, if you want to get separated from the pack, you really have to have an individual voice, and speak it loud, and and consequences be damned. That's that's the safest way. Being unsafe is the safest way.
Right, right. Got you. Um, I got one more question I'm going to ask. So being an independent filmmaker, making a union film versus a non-union film, or making a film where you go with union actors and non-union actors, um, what are some of the challenges either way that you go? And I guess what would be your advice to other independent filmmakers out here who are trying to make films and they're trying to weigh that balance as to which route I should go, or should it be a mixture of both?
Um, yeah, the thing is you can't really have a mixture of both. Either SAG, union is one of those things where either you're in or you're out, right? So I
Okay.
think thing, the big deciding factor for me would be, you know, do you have any money? If you don't have any money, um, you probably want to stay away from the union, because there's a lot of fees associated with the union. There's a lot of rigmarole associated with the union. They're going to force you to pay actors as employees instead of as contractors. They're gonna. So what that means to you is not only are you going to pay their fee, but you're going to pay taxes on top of them, and then you're going to pay fees on top of the taxes. So, you think you're paying someone X amount of dollars a day, but you're really paying them nearly twice that a day. So there's a lot of hidden fees
Right.
that you don't know about. There's a lot of processes that people don't talk about. You have to do a deposit for the actors. And in theory, it's a good idea. They take a security deposit on the actor's pay, so that if you stiff them, then SAG can still make sure they're paid. And that in theory, that's a good idea. But what does that mean to you? That means to you that you need to have double the payroll in your pocket, because you have to then pay them first before you can get the original payment back. So there's a lot of uh, landmines to step in with going union. However, sometimes you're in a bind, because if you're going to make a film, no matter how much money you have, if you just love this actor, you have to work with this actor, and that actor is SAG, then now you're in a bind, right? So now you have to go SAG in order to secure that actor, but now your entire production is SAG, so now you've ballooned your budget past what you may or may not have. So it's not as easy as should I go SAG or not? You really have to ask yourself, is it worth it for me at this level, right? And a lot of times,
Hmm.
I'm a very actor centered director and writer. So a lot of times for me, it comes down to who do I want in this movie, and that's the deciding factor of whether I go union or not. Um,
Got you.
but I mean, I can't answer that question for anyone else. But I will say, if you're a low to micro budget filmmaker, and you, your money is an issue for you, it is very important that you think two, three, four times about whether or not you should go union or not.
Got you. We got about 4 minutes left, so I want to, hand it over to you one more time to just drop, some wisdom, some knowledge, or advice to some filmmakers who may be watching this interview right now and are on the fence or trying to figure out which route I should go as a independent filmmaker. Just drop a couple of things on them that they need to think about.
The big thing I could tell you is just go for it, man. It is a scary but rewarding space to be in. Um, uh, I get excited about it still. If you have something to say, is you're not going to be able to sleep until you say it. And if you're a true filmmaker, like I am, and like you know some of my colleagues are, you don't have a choice but to do it anyway. So you might as well just accept who you are and go out there and make it happen. So y- you know, my first advice to you is your voice is relevant. It needs to be heard, and go out there and do it and make your movie. Even if you gotta do it by cell phone, by hook or crook, you gotta do it in 1 day instead of 3, or 8 days instead of 12. Figure it out. Make your movie. Say what you need to say. Take that knowledge. It's not going to be the best thing you've ever done. Take that knowledge. Debrief with yourself. What did I do wrong? What can I do right? Come back. I'll do better the next time.